Hello, welcome to the Is It Just Me podcast. I am your host, Dr. Angie Ange. This podcast will entail truthful, transparent conversation about everyday life and the lessons learned. This podcast is for everyone from teenagers to the elderly, although some topics discussed may be rated R. Every topic is based on living life and learning life lessons. And we're going to talk about detachment and how detachment has been positive in my life. Before each episode, I like to state this disclaimer that I am not a professional and everything discussed is the independent opinion and reality of myself. Before we discuss detachment, we must first define what do we mean by detachment. And when I say detachment, I mean separating yourself from not just individuals or relationships, but separating yourself from certain things that are not conducive to your lifestyle. And me glowing and growing and continuously trying to be a better me, I have mastered detachment. And at this big old age, I actually figured out that detachment is not a bad thing. For those of you that don't know a little bit on my background, I grew up in the foster care system. My mother was incarcerated and my father was battling drug addiction. I basically grew up and raised myself by myself. I was the type of individual that when I developed friendships or I had relationships, I held on to them no matter how toxic they were. I overlooked a lot of red flags because I just wanted to always have that sense of having that relationship with someone because I grew up alone for the most part. Although my mother did her best to do what she could for me and be there emotionally and financially from behind bars, for the most part, everything I've learned in growing up, I learned through trial and error because I didn't have anyone hands on to give me that advice or to have those talks with me and things like that. So a lot of the relationships that I did develop in my younger years were toxic relationships. And I continue to overlook red flags and I continue to allow people to mistreat me because I wanted to keep those relationships. And as I've grown and I've gotten older, I realized that practicing detachment has been positive for me because it allowed me to be more focused and be more present in my own life as opposed to dealing with situations that weren't conducive to me. And it allowed me to sit back and self reflect on things and people and relationships and how I was being treated and how I was treating other people and it wasn't being reciprocated. Something that I was taught growing up is that you teach people how to treat you. You treat people how you want to be treated, is what I was taught. But as I've gotten older, that no longer applies. You treat people how they treat you. And with me treating people how I wanted to be treated, it allowed me to be mistreated because I'm constantly treating these individuals and holding on to these friendships and treating them well, even though they weren't reciprocating. So, this is when I started learning about detachment. And with detachment, letting go is the best way to move forward when people are not positively contributing to your life. I've always heard that everyone is not meant to be in your life for a lifetime. Everyone has their season. And it wasn't until I got older that I really realized that is accurate. And being honest with yourself will help you better deal with detachment because you know what it is that you require. You know what it is that you deserve. So, with you being honest with yourself, and if those things are not being met, then you should learn to detach. And I'm not going to sit here and act like detachment is not painful because sometimes you invest years in these friendships, in these relationships, in these situations. And when they don't work out to the best of your ability, it can be hurtful. Your feelings can be hurt. But at the end of the day, you have to put yourself first before anything else. And being honest with yourself, knowing when to detach is the best thing that you can do. I always hear people talk about how they stick with certain situations or they continue to allow certain toxic or dysfunction. And they say, oh, but I want closure. I want closure. In my opinion, there is no such thing as closure. People show you exactly how they feel about you. And I had to get to this big old age to realize that people show you exactly how they feel about you. Now, we can choose to accept what they're showing us and move accordingly, or we can continue to overlook what they're showing us and then continue to treat people better than they're treating us. But that's a decision that you have to make. I made the decision that I'm no longer going to allow anyone in my life who is not reciprocating how I treat them. Growing up, we've always heard that's family, that's family. Oh, but that's your mother. Oh, but that's your father. Oh, but that's your sister, that's your brother, etc. And I'm a firm believer in you are allowed to walk away from anyone who is not conducive to your life, to your goals, and what you're trying to accomplish, and who is not in a healthy space for your mental health, whether it be a mother, a father, a grandmother, a sister, a brother. It doesn't matter who that person is. If they are not conducive to your life and to your mental health and to what you're trying to accomplish, it's okay for you to detach from them. I've learned that detachment can be positive for relationships and friendships because it reduces you being dependent on other people. It promotes boundaries and it encourages and enhances respect. Because sometimes when you're in relationships, and I'm not just talking about with a significant other, I mean friendships as well, you kind of create a dependency upon that person. So it kind of sometimes it can be like a codependency. And when you start to practice detachment from certain things, you start to realize how dependent you were on that relationship. And it can be dependent just for, someone that you used to vent to. It can be you were dependent on them just for, to hang out and have a good time. It doesn't have to be like a major dependency. You could have been dependent upon them emotionally because you feel emotionally safe with that person. But when you start to practice detachment, you learn to be dependent upon yourself. You learn to be your own best friend. And when you start to put boundaries in place, if the boundaries that you're putting in place jeopardize the relationships that you have, then those individuals are not meant to be in your life. Because anyone who wants to be in your life and anyone who respects you, they're going to respect the boundaries that you set forth and that you put in place because they want to be a part of your life. And once you start doing that, it enhances the respect because now people are going to treat you the way that you want to be treated because they know that if they don't, you can detach from them, you can detach from the situation, you can detach from the relationship. I'm speaking for myself in my situation, and growing in my life. Detachment has helped me embrace my individuality and move more towards my professional and personal growth. I've always been the type of person that if I win, everybody around me win. Always been a very selfless, giving person. And being a selfless, giving person, it sometimes attracts leechers and takers. Because you're selfless and you're so giving, you don't pick up on it in the beginning because it's second nature to you. It's like, okay, no problem, I got it. No, but then when you sit back and you're practicing detachment, you realize, like, well, damn. I'm always giving. And of course, because I'm always giving and I'm so selfless, it's not looked upon as, well, damn, they're not never doing it. But when you self reflect and you realize that other people are not reciprocating. So it has definitely helped me grow to be a more conscious person of who I allow in my space, of who I allow to get to know that selfless giving person that I am. I don't ever want to say be a selfish person, but in a sense, you have to be a selfish person when it comes to you. And when I mean be selfish, I mean selfish in a sense of putting your needs and putting you before anyone else. Because I'm telling you, people will take and take and take until they can't take anymore. And me being the selfless person and the giving person, I'm always wanting to give, to give, to give, to give. And then it's the one time when I say, you know what, no, I can't do it. Now I'm the worst person in the world. So that happened to me quite a few times. And with that happening to me, that allowed me to step back, self reflect, and realize, you know what, this situation is not conducive to what I'm trying to do in my growth and, the next level that I'm trying to progress to. So many people are used to dysfunction and they're used to dysfunction because they feel like they survive dysfunction, that they want other individuals to feel like dysfunction is normal. Just because you survive dysfunction does not make it normal. And a lot of people don't understand that. And that goes back to the family saying, oh, but that's still your mother. That's still your father. Yes, that is still my mother. That is still my father. That is still my sibling. But at the end of the day, if they're not conducive to what I'm doing and they want to continue the dysfunction that I choose not to deal with, I can detach and remove myself from that. I don't have to accept that and I don't have to be a part of their dysfunction. There are so many people who are currently still living in survival mode because that's all they know. That's all they know their whole life is to live in survival mode. That when you are at a space in your life, when you're at peace, you're drama free, you're at peace, you have no issues, they create those issues because they're always in survival mode and they don't know how to deal with being at peace and they don't know how to deal with positivity in the correct way. When you practice detachment, you start to have a sense of discernment where you can wean those people out. And it's like, I don't want no parts of that. And I can remove myself from that situation. Detachment doesn't always have to be negative. There's so many people that be like, oh, how could you just walk out that person's life? Or how could you never speak to that person again? And it's like, we don't have no beef. There is no issue. I just choose myself over anyone else. And I don't want to continuously be in the presence of individuals who bring out a negative person, who bring out the mean, angry, always arguing, always bickering individual. I want to be around people that we can always laugh and joke and have a good time. Hee hee ha ha, cackle cackle, and go on about our business. And I don't want to be around people who I have to question when I get up from this table. Am I going to be the topic of discussion? Because I'm very straightforward. Whatever I have to say about you, I'm going to say it to you. And there's not a lot of people in this world who are like that. So I choose the individuals that I allow myself to be around and who I allow to be around me. And at this big old age, some individuals are who they are and they're not going to change. So are there individuals who I feel like are real, sometimey and, are opportunists? Definitely. But when I'm around those individuals, do we have a good time? We definitely do. So I have learned how to treat those individuals accordingly because you're not reciprocating the type of individual that I am, and I can't expect me out of other people. So what I do is I deal with you accordingly. So I know how to detach myself and I don't take things personal because that is who you are. I accept you for who you are. However, allowing you to be in my close immediate circle, no, that's not going to happen. But I know how to be cordial with those type of individuals. And with me practicing detachment, it has helped me cultivate a sense of inner peace and happiness by allowing me to think before I act, which I'm still working on a daily basis because it's definitely hard for me because I act really fast. So I have gotten to a space where it was like, you know what? Let me sit back, let me process that before I respond to certain things. And with me practicing detachment, I have learned to, you know what? That's not even worthy of a response. That's not even worthy of an action. Again, I'm still working on that daily because there are times when I just react. But I'm working on just sitting back, protecting my peace because the peace that I have now is worth everything that I have lost in those individuals who have chosen to not be a part of my life. And I'm fine with that and I'm happy with that and I'm content with that. So with me practicing detachment for the positive aspect, it has cultivated such a sense of inner peace and happiness that it makes me think like, were these individuals for me? But again, I don't second guess a lot of stuff. Like what's meant to be is always going to be. And things happen the way that they were supposed to happen. And I feel like a lot of stuff happens and we go through things in life for it to teach us what to accept, what not to accept, what we're worthy of and what we're not worthy of, who we're worthy of and who we're not worthy of, who we should be around and who we should be surrounded by and who we shouldn't. And with practicing detachment comes a lot of growing pains. It comes a lot of hurt. It comes a lot of thinking because you have to process a lot of stuff and you have to really sit back and self reflect on yourself as well as on how situations played out, how things could have been different, and things of that nature. And sometimes with detachment, you are sitting back, you're self reflecting, and you're thinking about situations, but it's allowing you to stay focused and be more present in what you have going on. Because now I always tell people, I am my best friend. I can go out by myself. I can be by myself. I don't have to be surrounded by a group of people because I'm content, I'm happy, and I'm at peace. But again, I had to get to a certain stage in life where I am that way. There are quite a few people who you might always see people like they're never alone. They're always with a group of people that those individuals are probably working through things and they probably feel like they're their best self when they're surrounded by other individuals. I'm not that way. I'm my best self when I'm at peace and I'm surrounded by the individuals that I should be surrounded by, who mean me well and whose loyalty I don't have to question. It takes for you to go through certain things in life, for you to really sit back and realize that detachment is not a bad thing and letting go is not a bad thing. The stay in that everybody's not meant to stay in your life forever is true because you might go through seasons and a season can be a year, it can be 10 years, it can be 15 years. that season for those certain individuals, it ran its course. And the feelings may be there that you might feel hurt behind certain things, but feelings are not facts. And you can get over a feeling. It's a feeling and you will eventually get over it. And with practicing detachment, you are doing what's best for you and you are allowing yourself to stay focused and be more present on what you have going on and what's positive for you and the things that are meant for you. Once you have mastered being able to detach from certain things easily, you will be able to cultivate that sense of inner peace and happiness, and you will be able to sit back and think before you react. It seems like for me, when I started detaching from certain things, my discernment became better and I stopped trying to make excuses for other individuals and the things that they did because I feel like people know exactly what it is that they do. And for me, wanting to keep those relationships, I overlooked a lot of things that I should not have. So there shouldn't be anything that I have to overlook. And that's what detachment has taught me is that people show you exactly how they feel about you and pay attention to what they're showing you. And with practicing detachment, I have learned to stay focused and be more present. And I have learned to pay attention to how people treat me so that I can therefore reciprocate and treat people accordingly. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Is It Just Me podcast.